So what got you started in the arts?
I'm in master right now, so I started like my studies 5 years ago. But
And, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
but I used to like when I was a kid, I was already interested in making art, so yeah,
Mhm.
it's an experience.
And and growing up, what inspired you to study and look to art?
I'm not sure about that because my family has no background in art at all.
Mhm.
But I had some experience as a kid, and this is the thing that I was really looking forward to do. Like when I was maybe 6 and 5, and I will go out and take a lot of pictures. I will do a lot of drawing. So when the moment came to decide what I want to do for life, I already had really good grades when I was like a high school student, but I thought that what I wanted to do is to know more about art because I didn't know much, and I wanted to study, and I wanted that to be my background, like my environment.
And we noticed that you have studied, in several places around the world. Can you just tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I'm a student in France, and when I was in my second year of art school, I had the opportunity to go for a semester, which is like it was like 6 months to study abroad, and I had always been looking to Japanese craft, so I really wanted to go study there, and I took that opportunity at that time. And then later this year, as a master's student, I was also offered the opportunity to go to the United States. Like this doesn't happen much. Most of the time, you would just go once to study abroad. But I had this opportunity coming to me, and I thought maybe I should just get this opportunity to see like another field, like another country, and the way you handle artwork in America, because this is really different from France.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about some of those differences? Because I think Erin and I have grown up our whole lives in Texas in the United States, so we don't know anything about those differences.
The main difference for like art student, but I think it also concerns musical, and like it's like the school system is really different in my country and your country. Like in France, I go to an art school, which is a small art school compared to the American university, and it's only art, and I have an entrance exam, which is quite difficult. So people will take like 1 or 2 year like of preparatory class to be able to pass the exam. And when you pass the exam, you can enter the school. But in your system, it's really big university with different major, and you don't always have those entrance exam. And just you go, you take classes. So this is really different because we have that step of the entrance exam, and I think it's the same for a student in the musical field.
Mhm.
Like you need to pass that test to be able to go to the, we call that grade school, and you go to the specific school. Like you're not part of the big university with a campus and so on.
So I'm curious, were you aware of your desire to pursue art at a young age because of the way the schools work?
When I was young, I really did not know much about the school. In fact, I had to meet someone when I was in high school to learn more because no one around me, like my relative, no one was even close to the creative work. And every school is really different in France. Like you will pass the exam of different school on different city, but each one of them have their own unique personality and approach. So what I did when I was in high school, I went to a lot of how do you call that again? Open days,
Mhm.
and this is like a really this is yes a moment when I learn a lot about the study that I wanted to do. Like when I went to this open days and discover what the field was.
Yeah, and did you have any artists who were particularly inspiring to you on your journey?
I think I have a lot of artists, but if I have to tell only one right now, I would maybe say Ryoji Ikeda. I don't know if you know of that artist. It's like Japanese artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoy his work and the way he approaches the work. So I'm always keeping an eye on what he's doing.
And what was it about Japanese craft and arts that drew you to Japan?
There is really something about the different concepts and they have, like, uh, I don't know how I can say that shortly, but like the woodworking is really different, and also like the Japanese joints and all the woodworking is really specific in Japan because they have like a specific approach, and it's the same for a lot of craft in their country because this is entangled with a different concept. Like they have a concept that is about when you broke something, for example, like a glass, or they have some specific techniques that they use to repair, and that is enhancing the beauty of the object. Like one, for example, is when you have a bowl that is cracked, they will repair the bowl with gold, and so you will have those gold line, and it will totally change the bowl and make a new kind of object. So all of the craft are have this kind of different content that I was really attracted to.
And how did that experience inspire the work that you submitted with the red, white, and blue shawl?
This work is something that was really inspired by the city of Tokyo, like the way I decided, like the color I chose, the pattern, like the pattern of this weaving is inspired by all the sound of the city in Tokyo. Like in Tokyo, you have those kind of established sound in the street, like when you cross the street, you have a sound for blind people that cannot see the red light. A lot of objects make some kind of noise in the street, and like I don't know the word for that. Like the people that come to pick the garbage, they also like the truck is making a specific sound. You have those official announcement in the street. All the sound, established sound, like that I was not used to in Europe, and also you don't. Many countries don't have that, and so I got inspired by all the sounds to make the pattern on the weaving. It was like kind of a drawing inspired by all the sounds.
And I'm curious, do you feel that this woven piece seen in a gallery space as opposed to seeing it worn, like in the studio pictures, do you think that it has the same effect, or it takes away from it in any way?
I don't think it has the same effect at all. That's why I wanted to show you like both pictures, because during an exhibition it will be on the wall, and it's a little bit like up, so it is hang to the wall in a way that you feel like you can just take it off, that it's an object that is hanged. But at the same time with the picture, you clearly understand that even if during an exhibition it is exhibited this way, like the intention of that object is to be worn as a kind of blanket to protect someone. So like this is a sculpture, but it can be activated. It has like different shapes and different intention in the same object.
Mm-hmm. And what drew you to, those textile arts?
I'm not not sure. I think it's I was always sensitive to textile, even when I was a kid, and because when I went to Japan, I did not went to art major. I went to a craft major, and I went to the textile department, and I really focused on textile. This is how I discovered many things, and especially the link between the loom and the computer, and how this is thanks to the loom that we're able to make the computer. And this is the thing that really, for me, this is really the moment where when my work starts, when I discover that link, and it really makes this link for me between craft and computation, and the way the loom work makes a lot of sense when you think about computer with the loom in mind. I don't know if that makes sense.
And how do you think technology and the internet has affected your work?
Sorry?
How do you think that the internet and technology has affected your work?
You mean as a tool or as in my art practice?
It could be in both ways.
I think as a tool is something that I use more and more. Like, I think that nowadays as an art student, you need to improve your skill and on different software, because they would be really usable for the future. You will be able to not only do your work, but to be maybe the assistant of an artist, work with your gallery, and so on. And in my work, because I'm focused around technology, it's more that I always approach it with a critical thinking. Like, I the way we perceive technology, for me it's really interesting, because technology are never made without intention, and those intention made, like, we made the shape with those intention in mind, and those shape are never neutral. And for me, that's like my main point of research on the technology. Like the computer, for example, is a really visual tool, but it lacks touching. It's not really tactile, and maybe it could have been different. But the way it is now, this is like the way the tool is will have a different impact on how we use it and what kind of shape we create with the tools.
And do you think that technology, like the use of technology, is imperative to have successful art?
I'm not sure. I think it really depends on the person, but what I'm sure of is, because it's really difficult as an art student to make a living directly of your art. If you have some knowledge of the technology and software, you know that you will be able to work more easily on different fields, and that will help you, like, to have some kind of backup, or having some other kind of project to just make some money to support your main art practice, I think.
Yeah, and why don't you tell us about a piece that you are particularly proud of that you've made?
I think I'm particularly proud of the weaving that you talk about, distress wear, because when I did that piece, I learned so much at the same time that I was doing. I had like only 1 month, maybe like 1 month experience of weaving, which is not much. And at the same time that I was building the object, that I was doing the drawing, that I did the sample, I learned Arduino with that project. I learned to do a specific kind of weaving where you also dye the thread. I learned so much doing that project, and it was really like one of my biggest projects at the time, when I just kind of took all those things together: the weaving, the sound of the city, the idea of the light blinking and all the stuff, and just matches together in one object. So far, my favorite project.
And what's something unexpected that you learned from one of your projects?
Mm, what do you mean exactly?
Well, something that you didn't expect to learn when you were creating that you ended up, experiencing?
Yeah, like I remember with you talking about your textile piece, I think you said you had to learn how to dye the thread. Um,
Mhm.
like, did you know that you would have to learn that? And with other pieces, have you learned something that was unexpected?
Most of the time, I knew what I had to learn because I'm like, I think of a new project and I always try to try different technique and new methods. So I'm like, okay, for that project, I will need to know that. And as I'm working, I'm like, oh, okay, I will need to know that and that. But yeah, I get what you mean because sometimes I think what I learned and that I was not expecting is more like you start something and you see something in what you're making and you see that it's taking a slightly different road than what you intended to
Mhm.
at first. And what I learned is to either take that road or deny it. And most of the time I took it like to not deny like the kind of autonomy the work have. Like the work is almost telling me, no, I'm going that way, and you can choose to follow it or just like erase it. But yeah, I learned that the work has its own autonomy, I guess.
And can you tell us a little bit about your process?
Most of the time when I'm working on the project, it starts with like a focus on something. Like with this piece about weaving, I wanted to learn weaving. I was interested in also the electronic. I was like, what would happen if I tried to weave with lead? And for like the last project that I show you on the portfolio, the video, one of my main, I started like being curious about this old online video game that is ActiveWorld. That is one of the oldest um, internet universe. Like it's from 1997, and it's when I got interested in that game that I slowly raise different questions, and then that's how I end up with the idea of doing a movie about it. But there is always like a field, something that I'm interested to. It raises some question, and with those questions, I'm like, what kind of shape should I embrace to with those questions? And that's how the project takes shape.
And what research do you do to prepare?
I read a lot of books about like the concept, the history of the object I'm taking interest in. Sometimes it really depends. Like for example, for this old video game, I made some interview. I met some old players. Those are people that were playing this game for 30 years or something. So it really depends on the project, but at the same time, it's always like what I'm really studying. Like I want to know. I look at the definition, I look at the context, I look at what writers wrote about this thing, if some artists had the same focus before, all those kind of things.
And what would you say is your goal as an artist?
I'm still not sure about that. I know that we often think that being a successful artist it is about wealth. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to be a wealthy artist, but I just want to be able to keep producing meaningful work and work that can like help the people, that can empower the people. Like I want to do empowering work, so I want to just keep doing that and being able to afford that.
And what ideas would you like to impart to the viewers of your artwork?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. What ideas would you like to convey to your audience, the people who view your work?
In general, is really this idea that the viewers is always on a journey, like everyone and the viewers, people are on their own journey to something. And I wish that my art piece, at some point on the journey, they will be able to grasp something from it that will help them on their own journey. So this is what I wish, like, as an empowerment. And then, like, each some pieces, like the blanket, like the weave, have really it was really made to give this idea of you have an object to protect yourself. So this one has a specific meaning to that is directed to some people, like the person in need. But in general, this is really this idea of empowerment.
And what do you think makes a good piece of artwork?
This is a really big question. I'm not sure.
Well, it's very broad. But if you had to pick a few qualities that that a good piece of artwork generally should have, what would that be?
I'm not sure about what it should be, but I'm sure about what it shouldn't be. And we are now discussing a lot, like in the media and with the news, we see a lot of artworks that are discussed about the ethics, the morality. Like, we discovered that some great painter, maybe as people were like really were pedophile, or I don't know, like some controversy. And this idea of ethics and moral, I really don't agree with the idea that we should not think about the person that made the art. So for me, a great artwork can only be respectful. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be like some, what is the word for that? Some artwork are really provocative, but I think that, yeah, most artwork should be respectful.
Yeah, and I know that that's a very controversial thing that's happening right now, where we do see all of these artists who have done and do terrible things. So I am wondering, how did you come to that conclusion for yourself?
The conclusion that
That the artist should be respectful for the artwork to be good.
it really took a lot of time. And you know what you often hear is we need to separate the artist from the craft. But do I really want to enjoy a craft, an art piece that it's made? Because we also know that the person we are always have an influence on our work. So do I really want to enjoy a work when I know that those influence, it adds those influence on the work? Like the lack, when we see, for example, the lack of diversity in the movie, the lack of Black people in the movie, or Asian people, or the stereotype, all of that is here because it was, for a long time, it was never discussed. Like the ethic, like, is it okay to portray those community like this and like this? So, but now that we have all of this critical thinking about what the movie should be, that there should be more diversity, that trans people should not be represented a certain way. Now that we have this discussion about ethic, it's changing the movie and the cinema and the movie we're making. So that's why that's how I end up to this conclusion, because I see that where we are thinking about ethics in our artwork, it creates new kind of art piece and artwork that are more inclusive of all type of viewer. I don't want to do a craft when some people will think they are excluded because they are not represented in the art. This still would be like the most terrible thing for me if someone come to my exhibition and say something like, as a trans people, I feel excluded from your work, or something like this.
And in what way do you try to be inclusive of all of the minorities in your work?
because my own work is not socially focused, I think this is not so obvious at first, but I try, like, for example, the movie about Marfa, voting Marfa, all the script is written with inclusive pronoun, like, it doesn't make, we don't care in the movie if the actor are women or men or what do you say, or something else, not non-binary people. It doesn't, we don't need this information. And so I wrote all the script in this way, so you don't, the script is not written in a way that you will think, oh, this is a guy, this is a woman talking. No, it doesn't, there is no point in having the gender, specific gender in the movie, so I just erase that.
Yeah, so kind of more on that. I guess it's kind of an obvious question, but you wrote the script for a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about that movie?
As I said on the portfolio, it's about two persons that are going to Marfa, and because in the movie, you know, I said that I was studying this old video game, online video game, really old, that is like, this place is like a hub where there's only like hardcore players. They've been playing the game for 20, 30 years. Like that, it's a lot of time. And Marfa, I was supposed to go to Marfa, but because of the pandemic, I did not. So I don't know what does it exactly look like, Marfa, but what I know about it is really this small town in the desert, this kind of art hub with most people in the city, many people in the city working the art field. There is like residency, so there is a lot of so many things about art in a place so little. And in the movie, those two places are kind of overlapping, and the two protagonists want to cross to the virtual world that is active, passing through Marfa. And so the whole movie is their journey from the material world to the virtual world. And it is supposed to, like, visually you will see a mix of those two worlds, like they go slowly to the virtual. So what does it mean? Like suddenly they the voice get erased, landscape get virtualized, like using 3D images and stuff like this. And also they will have some effect on the body, like for example in a video game you cannot see your feet, you don't have the same sensation about your surroundings. So all those things will impact them as they cross to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of just wrapping things up, what has your art meant to you personally?
For me, it's always a way to learn, and for me, it hard to always make something that I know about. I always need to learn more. So like, I think my artwork is my way of learning the world, like to approach the world and to learn some more every time, and also convey those thoughts and thinking to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining this interview with us.
Yes, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. It's been great.
No, thanks to you. I saw the thing on, I saw your call and UH mailing, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really nice to be able to use my work to support this case of mother against police brutality. So thank you.
Yes. Yes, and thank you for applying. And we really did enjoy your work, and we enjoyed this interview today.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope I was clear, not so many mistakes.
No.